It's through the magnanimity of our benefactors, Mr. and Mrs. Richard and Barbara Franke, that we bring to you today's event, a screening of filmmaker Leena Manimekalai's Maadathy, an Unfairy Tale. This event's being co-sponsored by the Whitney Humanities Center and the Yale Macmillan South Asian Studies Council, so we're indebted to them for their visionary generosity in bringing Leena and her wonderful film to us today. Leena is a leading Tamil poet and a multiple award-winning filmmaker. And we're so grateful she has come in from Canada to join us here today. Her strong repertoire of films with an impressive exhibition record covering over 100 international film festivals includes the acclaimed film Maadathy, which we're seeing today as a feature fiction movie, the Sengadal, the Dead Sea, Cinema Verité, White Van Stores, a feature documentary, Is It Too Much to Ask, a mockumentary, Goddesses, a short documentary, and My Mirror is the Door, cine poem. She's an interventionist, and her forte is participatory filmmaking. So in our post-film discussion, we'll explore a bit more of that, Leena. Her tryst with censorship, both constitutional and extra-constitutional, as a brown, queer female body, as a poet, and as a politically unapologetic filmmaker, is in itself a meta-narrative in her journey as an artist. She was recently chosen for a BAFTA India Breakthrough Talent Award, named Artist in Residence by the Jackman Humanities Institute at the University of Toronto and the Centre for Free Expression in Toronto at the Metropolitan University. She's been profiled as one of 20 artists who inspire change globally by PEN America. She has a Master of Fine Arts degree in film from York University, and she's currently teaching undergraduates at the Department of Visual Studies at the University of Toronto, Mississauga. Sarakura is a participatory climate film it's her current project. And she's working with the Afro-Indigenous Quilombola community in the Amazon. That's her latest work in development, and I've already booked her for that when it's done. We want her back here to screen that, what I'm sure will be a wonderful film. So without further delay, we're on to her film, and afterwards I'll host a moderated conversation with Leena for about 30 minutes where we can take your questions and she can share her insights on the development of this beautiful piece. But thank you so much for joining us, and a special note of gratitude to Father Tom, who's with us today, because it was a chance conversation a few months ago, and he said, I have this friend from India who made this beautiful film, and here we are. So thank you, Leena.
Thank you, Dai, for bringing me and my film to Yale, and thank you, Father Tom, for connecting us. It is such a great show of solidarity. Thank you each and everyone for making time and coming here and, share your solidarity with the people. And I thank my team and the community who made this film possible. Thank you.
Thank you. So as I'm sure most of you know, we are the Franke Program in Science and the Humanities, and I'm here on behalf of Professor Priya Natarajan, who unfortunately could not join us this evening. But in deference to our mission, science and the humanities, I'd like to begin with a quotation you shared with me in one of our wonderful email exchanges. You said, film is a tool of science and technology, and I'm using it to amplify the stories of the marginalized communities. I qualified as an engineer, but I rather pursued to apply technology to create art than to serve capitalist industries. Let's talk about that. Beautiful quotation.
Yeah, as any middle class girl who wants to escape marriage in India, you're either pushed to do engineering or medicine, and I was pushed to do engineering. And yeah, of course, I qualified as an engineer, but I was always an artist. I think, mm, yeah, I mean, so far I remember, like I used to write poetry since I was 13, and I was always connecting myself to art because as a woman born in such a patriarchal, hierarchical Indian society, expression is something which is always denied to any girl child. And for me, poetry was a refuge. And then it extended to performance. I was a youth activist. I was always working with communities because schools never taught me. I mean, we still follow the colonial education system in India, or universities never taught me. Degree didn't give me anything. It was my connection with the communities as youth activist, going to every village, doing people theater with the communities, taught me a lot. And that's how I understood my society, what was not taught in my classrooms. And film came as an extension of all those things that I was doing as a youth activist. So it came to me. And I also, as a youth activist, I started using as political pamphlets. As an audiovisual medium, I saw how powerful it was to further the dialogue, which is always very important in any vibrant democracy, especially our society is divided into class, caste, gender. So all these hierarchies and such inequalities, and the communities you saw are Dalits, who are in the lowest in the ladder of caste system. Caste system is nothing but a system of slavery. So they are invisibilized. So how to make their stories heard? So audio-visual medium has always been my companion to show my solidarity to the people whose voices are never heard. I am just a vessel, and I let my communities tell their stories through me.
Thank you. So you're using a visual, obviously visual medium, to reveal the hidden. So the Dalits, right? Yasana and her family have to make themselves invisible, it appears, when someone of a higher rank comes into view. And in the movie, I thought you so beautifully captured the unseen and the invisible and the tension. You really exploited this for the viewers, the tension between what is meant to be seen, unseen, invisible, the private spaces, and you somehow delivered this on a larger scale for the audience. I was really struck by that tension. Is this a theme that runs through your other work, and how do you plan to address it in future projects?
I'm constantly trying to portray, or like what I learn, what I understand, and that profound experience of learning from the community, I'm trying to translate into an audiovisual medium. And I'm really thankful that it related to you, it made you feel for them. That's the only aspiration I have when I make films, that I want people feel for my people, the audience, that connection. So I wanted to reduce that distance between the audience and the stories and the people and their lives and struggles. That's my constant aspiration as an artist. And yeah, I mean, this community, Pudrai or the washer community, they are unseeables because their occupation is considered as pollution, unclean occupation, because they wash the clothes of untouchables. Those are Dalits. They're also in the lower, in the lowest, in the ladder of the caste system, but Pudraivannas even come lower to them because they wash their clothes and the clothes of the dead and the clothes of the menstruating woman. So seeing them is considered as a sin. So they always do it, before sunset and after sunset and before sunrise. So for them to be seen through this film is something like, the byline of the film is, nobodies do not have gods, they are gods. So that's the theme of this film. And Maadathy is them, and how every small gods in our cultures, or martyrs, or the people who were wronged and who resisted. So this is a folklore which I learned from the community. So I translated into a folkloric cinema. Folklore is a way of keeping the history alive, because these histories are never documented in the mainstream history books. So they are nobodies, they're invisibilized, and they're never heard. And this film, tries to achieve those, stories to be heard, seen, and felt. Yeah.
I read in researching your film, I was shocked by the fact that, except for the main characters in the film, the rest were the townspeople, the villagers, correct? They weren't professional actors. And so this is really striking when you consider how you made the film. I mean, I would have guessed that they were all actors. How was it working with them? Were they reticent? Did you have to overcome that, their sense that their story should not be told, or were they happy to present themselves in this way?
I always do participatory work. I create with the communities I work with. They are co-creators. So my earlier film, Sengadal, The Dead Sea, was also co-created with the refugees, the Sri Lankan Tamil refugees, and the fishermen in the Indo-Sri Lankan border shore. This also was co-created with the communities, except 4 or 5 main characters. They also are not from mainstream. They are from theater and other performance arts. But at least 92% of the ensemble of actors are from the community. And the participation is not just acting, they were through and through, and each character was inspired by the stories I heard from them, from the elders, from the children, from the mothers, from the wise people. So I interviewed hours and hours of the community, visited them, and it's years of research. And I write a draft, I go back to them, I read with them. So, and also like months of rehearsals, it's a writing workshop, and then actors workshop, and the mise-en-scene workshop. And before shoot, because we don't have a lot of money, when you see it as crowdfunded. So nobody gives money to make films like this. So earlier films were also crowdfunded. This was also partly crowdfunded, and then we found some support and some grants and stuff like that. So they cooked for us. They opened their houses for us, and they participated in every production activity. And we did it together. Before shoot, at least each scene was rehearsed thrice, on location, off location. And you would see the village, the one village which we adapted. It is happening in one village and the forest around the village. It is my home place. So it's my ancestral village. So without them, to go to mountains or to enter the forest and to have the unit fed, we are completely dependable on the communities. So without the community, you can't imagine the film. It is possible only because of them. And it's it's almost a 3-year, you know, sequential work from pre-production to distribution.
Wow, remarkable. Thank you. Fred has the microphone for audience questions. Back there, Fred, and then we'll come down here. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a little confused that you were talking about the participation of the community. Is this because in the movie, obviously, most of the community members hated these Dalit people or the sub-Dalit people. So is that what the community, today's community wanted to say that story, or did today's community continue hating the Dalit people? I mean, is this like, I'm kind of confused here.
This was done in a Dalit village. So everybody living in this village, like 100 families, they are Dalits. The Pudraivannars, like the system, how it works is, if there are 100 Dalit families, they hire 1 or 2 Pudraivannar community workers to stay in that village to do their occupation. So that's, I mean, in this village, you only see Dalits and Pudraivannars. Pudraivannars are also Dalits, untouchables and unseeables. So within the Dalit community, there is hierarchy. So a caste system, like it's not just Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, and Dalits. Within these, there are like hundreds of subdivisions, and this is hierarchy within Dalits. And Pudraivannars come even lower than, within Dalits, they are in the lowest, so they're unseeables, and they work for untouchables. So this story was told by villagers. It's not something came out of my imagination. This is a legend. In every Pudraivannar family, you can have, if you go and visit them, you will see a girl or a grandmother or a mother has this name Maadathy, and they have versions of stories on Maadathy. My research led me to learn about this community, and that research was about how caste and gender violence operate in our society. And in this particular community, especially in Pudraivannars, they are perennially displacing because they're not able to protect their female children. And that led me to discover this community because they're completely invisibilized. To be really honest, I myself didn't know about them till I read a book called Koveru Karidegal, but then I always thought that was a thing of a past. And then I started reading more, whatever research available, and then that led me to meet activists in Tirunelveli district, and they gave access to meet the elders of this community. And almost I traveled to 35 villages and spoke to people, and that's how I decided to, tell the story on the screen. So that's how Maadathy happened. And in this film, you will see, because it's a film and they took it sportive, and you will see Pudraivannars acting as Pallars and Pallars acting as Pudraivannars. So they all came together and they were very excited to tell the story of Maadathy to the world because it is so normalized. And Pudraivannar lives as a Pudraivannar and Pallar they live as Pallars. But then this legend continues, and they participated in telling this story. And it is not something which we are telling out of imagination. It is the belief, it is the reality, and it is translated into a story in screen.
It's amazing that the only way it seems they can transcend their terrible lot is by this self-deification story. And I can see then how they would want this shared as you did.
Yeah, and I shared the edit even before showing the film to the world, to the communities. They saw them. They started calling me Maadathy. because Maadathy is such a special, it's an emotion, it's an idea. Like,
Empowerment.
she lives, it's a spirit, actually. So, yeah, I always feel as an extended family to them. I lived in a Pudraivannar elder's house for a year to work on this. And now there is change. Like, for example, the elder who actually acts as a village leader in the film, he is the first degree holder of this community. But then his brother is still doing the same occupation. It's really complex to understand caste system in India. You might be a magistrate, you might be a tahsildar, you might be a bureaucrat, you might have like, come to a higher position economically. But then if you want to stay back in your home village, you will have to do those traditional occupation. So Cricket Murthy, the elder who helped us with telling the story, and he's also co-author in the writing. He helped us with dialogues, with screenwriting, and all that. He is a village tahsildar, but he lives in the village, and when he goes out, people, call him out in his caste name, and he has to salute them, though they will be illiterate, but then he should still do that. And his brother, Selva, and Selva's wife, they were the ones who trained our actors, the Yosina's mother and father. So they are still doing the occupation meant for Pudraivannars. And because, see, it's not just you have to stay back in your village, and that's a village you're born and brought up, and you need a space to be buried when you're dead. So all these connections, if you want that to continue, if you then if you don't want to lose your caste identity, then you're still forced to do that occupation. Cricket Murthy's two sons, he didn't want them to continue in the same identity. So one graduated as an engineer, and he's in the US. And one, he acted, the younger one, he was also assisting me, and he also acted as one of the friend of the main guy. And he also finished his engineering, but then he didn't, Murthy Ayya is how we, address elders. He didn't allow the guy to stay in the same village, then he will be forced to do the same occupation, meaning washing the clothes. So he's living in a city. But, he's, again, if he goes back to village, he will be like a Pudraivannar. But like the mobility just gives them distance from all the identities, but the tradition continues. Yeah, that's a reality.
Fascinating. Another question that was down here, over there, Fred. Thank you.
Hi. First of all, I want to say that I really like your film, and especially the music is very unusual, but characterize the film. And I can imagine that you must be very strong when you were filming the story. Thank you. And my question is, I wonder, why did you choose the figure of the little boy who draw, who keep and tell the story? Especially at the final, he ended out the clothes for her menstruation, right? Was that kind of your hope of justice in gender, or it's just random?
No, I wanted the spirit to be a boy, because everybody will expect a girl. So he's a spirit, but he's a small boy. And I also, if you see, I've used menstruation as a narrative device. It'll start with the woman getting, menses, and she's looking for a cloth, and then, then she meets the spirit. And you also see an image where a boy is giving a napkin to the girl, and she running away. I used menstruation as a narrative device because Pudrevanas are considered polluted because they wash menstrual clothes of the oppressor caste. And also, in the Tamil industry I come from Tamil film, menstruation was never, you can't see characters talking about menstruation as if women don't menstruate. So that's how if you look into Tamil films, you will see like Tamil women won't menstruate or what? Like, because it's never been in the discussion. So, but then I framed it as a device. So this image of a small boy giving a napkin, and because in our culture, like even if you go and buy a napkin, they will like pack it up and give you, and you will have to hide it in your bag because it is a shame to show the napkins outside. So in the bag, they won't keep it so that people can see that you're, buying a napkin and going. So it's such a hush-hush subject to even talk about menstruation. So I just wanted to break that, and that's how the whole structure fell into place. Thank you for asking that question.
Yes, thank you. Question here, Fred.
Thank you for sharing this story with us. I have to say, I was really, a couple of times I wanted to walk out. I struggled with the rape scenes, the sense of helplessness that the woman had, and I also, I don't know if struggled, but a part of me related to the mother's frustration about being stuck in this caste and not being able to get anywhere, and the level of violence in our language and the language that was used, and the constant demeaning of the daughter. But I also get that she was really frustrated within her own life, and she was trying to protect her the best she could, and that's all the language she had. So wow, that was pretty intense. And was that the intention, to kind of provoke that in the audience? And I'm curious as to your thoughts about why that was important to kind of provoke that.
Trust me, I also struggled with that. That's like a huge challenge as a filmmaker, to frame sexual violence without making the audience a voyeur, because that's been the case in mainstream Tamil cinema, where rape fantasies and even the rape scenes are always used to make the audience participate in the rape rather than making the audience feel shocked or empathized and, not feeling complacent, So it was a challenge for me as a filmmaker who believes in gender justice, and also, who is constantly trying to portray violence with sensitivity and not commodifying women's bodies. So it was really a big challenge. But then I decided to, because that's the theme of the film, because sexual violence is a day-to-day reality of these people, this community. Protecting female bodies, protecting female children is the first, it's in the top in their everyday reality. And it is so normalized that anybody, any oppressor man can enter a house, or if they can, like if they see the woman, if they can just do it and nobody questions it. And they have so internalized it that it is like, you could see she was raped and then you can see her washing the clothes, right? And there is a husband, and her, like, safety of husband is used to, rape the woman's body. So that I struggled, but I wanted to face the challenge and portray it, because, and I also thank you for asking that question. The language, I mean, I had a huge problem in getting a clearance, a censorship clearance from the Indian Censor Board, because they felt the language is really very unparliamentary. That's something they use. But then I really fought for that. And because rape culture is so encoded in our language. Like when four boys gather, they speak, the language they speak has this kind of violence encoded in the language. So it's not just the violence, like it is in the language, it is in their life, it is in the way they speak. If they want to punish the village leader, they would talk about raping the village leader's wife.
That was incredible.
Yeah, and if you, like, it is always like the person's sisters, the person's mothers, the person's daughters, it's always, so in the culture, punishment is coming from this desire to, punishing the woman's body, or raping, or violating, or, violating their dignity, that is the rape culture, and the sexual violence you see is the culmination of it. And I wanted to keep that like as it is, and I didn't want to, kind of sanitize it and not, or shy away from it.
Right, you couldn't to
Yeah.
do justice to it, to
Yeah.
the story.
So Maadathy is a goddess. The whole legend is the folklore. Most of these Maadathis were sexually violated. And this is a story of the spirit coming back and punishing the community who wronged them. So maybe this didn't happen, but they want this legend to continue. So at least as their hope, this is giving them hope. This is giving them some kind of hold to continue in life, right? So I think legends and folklore and all these forms of storytelling is another alternative history that is keeping them alive, right? So, so Maadathy is the goddess, the legend which is still believed by the community, and the woman was sexually violated. So the film is about that, and I can't shy away from, portraying it. And if it is shocking, yes, it is made to shock you, and it is made to, make you feel for it and learn how sexual violence in the name of caste is so normalized in Indian culture.
We have time for, I'd say, one more question before reception. Down here, Fred? She had her, over here, Fred, in the front row. Your front, thank you. And we'll have time to continue the conversation at the reception. Hopefully you'll join us.
So I'm going to assume that the warnings about cigarettes and alcohol were required, but they were so powerful because so often they happened at the very time that the women were in most danger. And what was really dangerous in this movie was not, well, cigarettes and alcohol, yes, but the violence towards the women. And so I'm sure you didn't volunteer for that to be in there, but it ended up being very powerful. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it is ironical, good that you asked this question, that to get a censor, clearance from Indian CBFC, Censor Board, Central Board of Film Certification. It is just a certification board since late 80s, but it always functions as a censor body, right? It's a reminiscence of colonial rule we had. And yeah, they have this rule that you will have to put the disclaimers, whenever the characters are smoking. And to get the clearance, you need to put those things. But then you can rape a woman, you don't need a disclaimer.
You can disclaimer on the sexual violence, yes.
So, yeah, no birds or no animals are harmed, but women are harmed. But anyways, so it's not, that's true that no birds, animal rights board and also this, you know, the board for this, like, you know, against this tobacco, and all those are strong. But, you know, women's rights and portraying women's bodies, and I mean, you would have seen Bollywood, you've seen mainstream Indian films, and you would have already had how women are commodified, women's bodies are commodified in the film. But yeah, there is no disclaimer yet in the CBFC, Central Board of Film Certification of India. Yeah, so smoking and those disclaimers were the, you know, given by Indian CBFC. They have the templates. We just need to insert those. Given a chance, I wouldn't use it. But we need to use it to get the clearance. Otherwise, we won't be able to screen in India. For me, screening in India was so important. So I can screen everywhere without getting a clearance. But in India, if you want to screen, you need to get a clearance. So I took up legal struggle, but that's the same story for all my films. So the regional censor board will reject my film. They will ban my film. They will say it is not fit for certification. That every time I go to tribunal, fight for it, and we have, you know, Article 19, which gives us constitutional right to, you know, freedom of expression. So most of, like, I've made, like, these are Sengadal and Maadathy are the only features, but I've made a lot of shorts and mid-length docs and mockumentaries and other films. But even them, like, I always had to go to tribunal, get it certified without any cuts, because I really believe in, like, how I believe in my freedom of expression, I also believe that audience should watch a film which is not cut or which is not mutilated by state, you know, somebody giving cuts and all those things. I'm okay with the disclaimers because that's okay. It's like, it's not, but like, you know, giving cuts, like one of the film, in one of my film, they gave 52 cuts. So I had to, like, really fight for it. And finally, I take this trouble because I truly believe that my audience should watch the film like how I made it, and not mutilated by some state body. Yeah.
Thank you. As I mentioned, we have a lovely Indian reception upstairs for Leena, who will be joining us. So Fred in the back will shepherd everybody to Fellows Hall, and we hope as many of you who can will join us for that. Please do come, and we can continue this enlightening conversation. But thank you so much, Leena, once again, for joining us. And as I said, when Sarakura is ready, we'll screen that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.